Good day, everyone. So, what I wanted to share to you today is about Content Development Part II. It covers the defining instructional, evaluation, and delivery strategies. The content of the course has been decided, but before starting the development stage, decision must be made about the way in which the course will be made accessible to learners. The instructional designer suggests creating interactive content for self-study with graphics, animation, and tests, and also providing some opportunities to learners for online socialization and discussion. Another concern is about development time and budget constraint, because the team is also aware that there are some technology constraints to verify. So for example, it would be completely useless to provide the course through a synchronous virtual classroom if learners don't have a good internet connections. This video provides guidance on how to make decisions about the overall course design or instruction. It will include the following topics. First, instructional methods for e-learning, delivery formats, and evaluation methods. Now, once the course structure has been defined and the ID or instructional designer must propose the best mix of methods and techniques for a specific e-learning course. Now, the design of an e-learning course will involve using a combination of the following instructional methods. We have expositive methods, which emphasize absorption of new information. Impositive methods include presentations, case studies, work examples, and demonstration, while application methods emphasize the active processes learners use to perform procedural and principle-based tasks and build new knowledge. Application methods include demonstration practice method, job aids, case-based or scenario-based exercises, role play, simulation and serious games, guided research, and project work. For collaborative methods in which emphasize the social dimension of learning and engage learners sharing knowledge and performing tasks in a collaborative way. Of course, they include online guided discussion, collaborative work, and peer tutoring. Now, as what we have here, as I stated earlier, no, that these three methods can be delivered in different formats. Of course, using different types of media and communication tools. So for example, a presentation can be delivered as a PowerPoint presentation file or as a recorded or live video presentation. An online discussion can be carried out in a discussion forum or through a Skype call, because delivery formats are selected based on additional factors related to learners, technological, and organizational constraints, of course, the budget, and available time. Now, the expositive methods, of course, requires learner to listen and read or observe. So a subject matter expert or the teacher or instructor delivers knowledge on a given topic, which can be complemented by tests and exercises to evaluate learners' memorization and or understanding the content. These methods are used for acquiring information, but they can be combined with other methods to create different types of learning courses. In those courses, the expositive component is normally used to provide orientation and basic concepts before going into more practical and complex stages. Presentation, especially in video formats, can also be used to synthesize and influence learners' attitudes toward specific subjects. Again, expositive methods include presentations, organize information on a specific topic, case studies, real, significant cases related to the topic, for work examples, so example of the topic with comments and explicit reference to the theory, and demonstration, an illustration of how a task can be performed. Now, delivery formats for expositive methods. So we have simple learning content such as documents and PowerPoint presentations with no interactivity. Another one is interactive e-lessons, or of course by using text, images, audio, animation, and practice. So example, questions, and feedback. We have, of course, presentation made by an expert or instructor, which are broadcast in a real time or recorded for learners to watch at any time. The lesson can be recorded in both video and audio formats like podcasts. We have also webinar and virtual classroom. The instructor presents the content to a group of learners who are connected to the platform at the same time. Learners can interact with the instructor or facilitator, ask questions, and receive feedback using video conference, audio conference, or chat. The professor or instructor can be used special software called virtual classroom software. These programs usually include a range of synchronous tools such as whiteboard, application sharing, audio conference, and chat. And learners can use these tools to interact with the teachers or instructor and other learners, ask and answer questions, vote, and others. The application methods involve the learners in practical activities which can range from simple exercises, so such as the demonstration practice method, to more complex methods like simulation or research activities. When using these methods, it is helpful to have a tutor or an instructor to provide guidance and facilitate reflections for learners. We have demonstration practice method, as I mentioned. This method is used to teach a procedure. So usually, a software procedure such as how to generate a map using Geographic Information System or GIS software, using directive learning. A procedure is first demonstrated by an expert or, of course, the teacher or instructor, and then learners are asked to practice the procedure by interacting with the system or with the software. An example, of course, of a demonstration practice methods is interactive e-lesson. Okay, so interactive e-lesson using a combination of animation and operational simulation. So based on sequence of operations that allow learners to interact with the system and receive feedback on his or her action. Another, of course, under demonstration practice methods is the webinar or virtual classroom. It's sharing tools and allow learners to take control on the following applications to practice it. As I posted earlier, we have job aids after demonstration practice methods. Job aids provide just-in-time knowledge. Okay? They usually provide, of course, this job aid provide an immediate answers to specific questions, helping users accomplish job tasks. So, for example, no, learners may be provided with a checklist to help them draft a communication strategy for a specific audience. And this method can be realized through different delivery format. So, as what we have here, we have printed documents, no? Printed documents such as checklists, technical glossaries, and manuals, or online help, or more sophisticated interactive online systems. We have also case scenario. Okay, so case scenario exercises. Case-based exercises are used to develop cognitive skills in a specific domain. Learners are asked to apply knowledge and principles to a concrete situation. So typically, this method is built around a scenario. So, a challenging situation where learners are required to make decisions by choosing among different options. So, for example, learners may need to select the best method for assessing the impact of the Data Privacy Act. No? Or they are provided with an overview of the different assessment methods, criteria, and information about the specific program to be assessed. An expert then comments on the learner's choice, of course. Now, of course, the delivery formats for application methods, as I mentioned earlier, the e-learning linears. No? So, for case-based method or the delivery formats for case-based methods, so again, we are allowed to use e-learning linear lessons using text, images, audio, animations, and practice. So, for example, question and feedback. No? Because feedback is provided to learners by comments on the appropriateness of their choices, and after which they proceed to the next situation. We have also an electronic simulation. It's also applicable for a case-based method. This one is based on branch in a scenario, or also called experiential simulation. Each learner's choice produces a consequence that generates feedback, and the feedback is provided through a follow-up situation that produces more choices. Actually, in case-based method, we are also possible to use tutorial individual activities in which a challenging situation is presented together with the information and tools required to develop a solution to the problem. And each learner is asked to develop his or her own solutions by using the available information. And the teacher or the subject matter expert can provide feedback during and at the end of the work. Now, another thing for case-based, of course, or another possible methods for a case-based scenario is activities that are performed by a group rather than an individual. And this also provides the opportunity to practice interpersonal skills, so like negotiation skills. As what we have here, we have also role play, right? Wherein, of course, in a role play, electronic simulation and activities is also applicable because role play is used to develop interpersonal skills. Learners are asked to apply behavior-related principles. So, example, communication principles to concrete situation. Feedback is provided to learners about their behavior. So, for example, learners may be divided in group of 2 people. One is designated as the policymaker and the others as the, for example, data privacy officers. The expert must convince the policymaker to take action based on the expert's recommendation. And after the simulation, the teachers or subject matter experts comments on the learner's performance. In e-learning, this method can be realized through delivery formats. So as I mentioned earlier, possibly and also applicable, electronic simulation and the activities. Okay? So, how about collaborative methods are based on dialogue and discussion among facilitators and learners. They add a social dimension to the learning experience, applying the principle of social constructivism and collaborative learning. They allow learners actually to benefit from having discussion partners and getting personal feedback. So we have online guided discussion. The guided discussions are designed to facilitate learning and improve knowledge and skills. The facilitator asks learners to questions to stimulate and guide reflection and critical thinking. This discussion usually complement other methods such as presentation, research, and case-based exercises. Because guided discussion also facilitate communication and knowledge sharing among learners. So for example, after individual research on, for example, data privacy, now learners may be asked to describe to the facilitator and other learners how this system or work in their own different, for example, industry. Okay? In e-learning, this method can be realized through delivery or other delivery format. So we have a discussion, of course, forums, emails, chats, or audio or video conference. Now, how about the collaborative work? Learners work together to perform different types of activities such as evaluation, analysis or development of an assignment or a project. In this method requires learners to collaborate, listen to each other, argue and negotiate, and they develop interpersonal skills other than domain-specific and problem-solving skills. So for example, learners may be divided into a small group in change to evaluate the impact of a food security program by applying the principles learned during the course. Each group must provide an evaluation report as an outcome of the assignment. The delivery formats for collaborative work, of course, as I mentioned, discussion forums, it will be apply emails, chat or audio or video conferences to communicate among learners. We could able to possible wikis, blogs, share documents for collaborative work. The next will be the peer tutoring. Learners monitor and support each other. They have the opportunity to learn from each other's work and to practice tutoring methods. This is useful method for train the trainer projects. So for example, each learner may be asked to review a food security report developed by another learner and to provide suggestions on how to improve the document according to the principle learned during the course. Of course, again, in e-learning, this method can be realized through the delivery formats of discussion forums. Again, emails, chat, audio, or video conferences, wikis, blogs, and shared documents. Now, to summarize the instructional methods and formats, of course, most courses combine two or more e-learning methods using different types of e-learning formats. For expositive, of course, expositive methods, we have presentation, case study, work example, and demonstration. And it used to facilitate knowledge acquisition, mainly conceptual and factual knowledge, orientation, motivation, and attitudinal change. Delivery formats for this, simple learning resources, documents, and PowerPoint presentation. And of course, interactive e-lesson or e-learning lesson. What will be the pros of expositive methods? Quick to develop, flexible, allows the use of various instructional techniques. What will be the cons? Of course, no interactivity passive learning, or low or medium passive learning. Correct use of instructional techniques and media elements is needed to avoid this risk. When it comes to delivery formats under webcasting, video lesson, and podcast, of course, pros, quiet, easy to develop. Of course, the cons, of course, no interactivity passive learner or learning, need to consider available learners, internet connections. Under for delivery formats using webinars, video conference or audio or conference chat based, and virtual classroom, Allows interaction as pros, allows interaction between instructor and teachers or learners, requires low effort to convert materials. The instructor must be prepared. This will be the cons, of course. The instructor must be prepared to teach online and use adequate support materials. Need to consider available learners' internet connection. How about the summary of application methods? If in application methods, for demonstration practice method, of course, it is used for develop procedural skills. Okay. How about the delivery format? They could use combination of animation and operational simulation and virtual classroom using application sharing. What will be the pros? Allow learners to practice. How about the cons? Mainly used for software and simple medical procedures. Need to consider available learners interaction or internet connections. Another is job age, no? So for job age, provide just-in-time information and guidance. Of course, the delivery format must be provide documents such as checklists, technical glossaries, templates, and manuals, and online help and expert system. Pros, promote transfer of learning to workplace performance, and cons, sophisticated expert system require complex design. Under application method, of course, we have case-based exercises. It is used to develop job-specific cognitive skills. What will be the delivery format for case-based exercises? Interactive e-learning lessons, electronic simulation based on branch scenarios. So, of course, for pros, good level of interactivity and highly interactive. For cons, of course, time consuming, maybe, no? To design. Multimedia simulation can be costly to produce and need support of an online teacher or instructor. For the delivery formats using electronic simulation-based or branch scenarios or individual tutored activity and online group activity. Highly interactive plus personalized feedback and highly interactive social dimension as pros. And for cons, of course, time-consuming to design, need support of an online tutor or instructor, and need to consider available learners, internet connections, and need active support of a online facilitator, as I mentioned. For role plays, of course, develop interpersonal skills and stimulate attitudinal change. So, what will be the delivery formats? So, how will be able to deliver the role plays? Of course, interactive e-lesson. So, pros, of course, good level of interactivity. And for cons, quite time consuming to design. For electronic simulation-based or branch scenarios, highly interactive, time consuming to design, multimedia simulation can be costly to produce. For online group activity, highly interactive plus social dimension. And of course, time-consuming to design, need for consideration available learners, internet connection, and need active support of an online facilitator. Under application method, of course, again, we have again simulations, of course, and serious games. Develop deep understanding of complex system. We need symbolic simulation and learning games. Same, highly effective, allow to practice high cognitive performance level, apply and analyze, of course, or analysis. It is also time-consuming as cons and costly to design and produce and need active support of an online tutor or a subject matter expert. For guided research, active knowledge construction, discussion forum, email, chat, audio and video conference, wiki, blog, share, and documents. And of course, allow to practice high cognitive performance level and analyze and create. Need active support, facilitator to provide help and active feedback. So, it's the same with guided research and project work. How about for collaborative methods? Of course, for online guided discussion, as it is used for stimulate critical thinking and reflection. So, facilitate communication among learners, develop interpersonal skills, and stimulate attitudinal change. Of course, how about the delivery formats for this kind of method? So, under online guided discussion, we can, of course, use discussion forum, email, chat, audio, and video conference. As pros, allows for reflection, socialization, and knowledge sharing. As cons, less effective than collaborative project. Work to achieve learning objectives and need to consider available learners' internet connection. For collaborative work, stimulate critical thinking and reflection, develop problem-solving skills, develop interpersonal skills, stimulate attitudinal change. And of course, the delivery, discussion forum, email, wiki, blog, chat, audio and video conference, and shared documents. Pros, allow learners to make their knowledge explicit through argumentation. What will be the cons? Need active support of an online facilitator to provide help and feedback. And again, need to consider available learners, internet connection. Again, under for collaborative methods, again, we have peer tutoring. Okay? Stimulate critical thinking and reflection, develop interpersonal skills, stimulate attitudinal change, discussion forum, email, wiki, blog, chat, audio and video conference, and shared documents. Good for train-the-trainer projects. And this peer tutoring may need to be facilitated, need to consider available learners, internet connections. Another consideration under ADI, of course, in design, is the delivery strategy. Now, when selecting delivery formats, a number of factors must be considered, okay? Including learner-related factors, technology aspects, and organizational requirements. Of course, learner-related factors, I will give you an important factors to consider about learners. Their comforts with delivery channels. Audio and video conferencing can be frustrating for non-native language learners. Email or discussion forums are more appropriate since they allow learners to take the time they need to read and write. Another thing is their level of technical expertise. If they have only recently experimented with email, they may have difficulty working with whiteboards and video conferencing. It is important to consider how much technical support can be offered to them. Their available time is also considered. If learners are busy, are located in different time zones, or cannot conform to rigid schedules because they can only access a shared computers during certain hours, asynchronous tools will be prepared. For technology aspect, learners' computers capabilities, infrastructure, and connectivity need to be considered before making any technology decisions. Understanding whether learners have AC access to network system is important. Some activities can be carried out only with the support of an internet connection, while others can be developed for self-paced e-learning. If there is limited internet connectivity, consider using CD-ROMs, flash drive, and other offline formats to allow learners to take all or parts of the course offline. Of course, knowing bandwidth limitation helps you to choose the right delivery format. The following is a rough estimate of connection speeds required by various e-learning formats. So as you can see here, we have an e-learning format and what will be the speed of internet connection required to display or use. Now, because it is also important to consider what kind of computers and software programs learners use, especially when creating e-learning courses in developing or development context. Technical requirements including multimedia capabilities influence the selection of media mix, and plugins. A multimedia training course can require the learners to have special hardware configuration. So for example, large amount of memory, fast processors, high resolution monitors, audio and video cards. Medial players, also called plugins, no? Like Adobe Acrobat Reader or Flash Player plugins, may be needed to display media and interact with the learner. If this is required, learners should be able to freely download them from the web. And of course, try to limit the number of media players needed by learners so that they don't have to do too many downloads. Alternatively, if you provide offline courses such as on a flash drive or CD-ROM, you can embed in the CD or flash drive all the media players that are needed to display the course. Actually, using several media does not necessarily improve the effectiveness of an e-learning activity. Good instructional design is more critical to achieving learning effectiveness than special multimedia effects. So for example, while audio is generally recommended, video and complex animation may not be required and could instead be replaced by a series of images. Of course, another thing is the organizational requirements and constraints. A range of organizational requirements and constraints such as the available time and budget will influence the choice of delivery formats. Developing self-paced learning, okay? So especially with a lot of multimedia, it can require much more time than preparing a virtual classroom. When the instruction needs to be provided as to many people as possible in the least amount of time, a series of large virtual classes might be the right solution. Investing in the development of a complete self-paced courses makes sense to meet long-term training goals more than immediate or urgent training needs. However, development costs for interactive content have dramatically decreased because of the development of new authoring tools. How about the instructor-led courses? Instructor-led courses are cheap to develop but expensive to deliver, while self-paced courses based on interactive content are expensive to develop but cheap to deliver. Thus, knowing the number of learners is important in assessing the cost impact. Another is good practices. By making use of asynchronous and synchronous learning and collaborative tools, it is possible to define e-learning solution which match specific needs. Actually, some good practices include combining structure and ad hoc solution. The combining structure and ad hoc solutions, so for example, an extensive curriculum on data privacy, no, can be developed as a standalone course, while short virtual workshop can be used to illustrate updates to a methodology or guidelines to face a recently emerged problem. Another good practice is localization. If you have a diverse and geographically dispersed learner group for which translation and cultural adjustment are required, you might decide to develop a large self-paced e-learning courses in English for all learners, followed by virtual classes in the local language to deal with local issues and cultural differences. Because this semester, we could able to cater an international students by adopting a flexible learning or online learning. Another thing is allowing downloads. Okay, Even in contexts with highly developed infrastructures, learners do not have continuous access to the internet. They should be able to download online content and work on it offline. And the last as a good practices is asynchronous courses. E-learning materials developed for self-paced e-learning can be combined with asynchronous collaboration facilities such as discussion forums and email. This works well for learners who cannot conform to the rigid schedule of classroom training but want to enrich learning through discussion with other learners and facilitator. Another one is the defining the evaluation strategies under design. Another important decision relates to the evaluation strategy for your course. It is very important to think about this from the design stage. Of course, first you should establish the purpose of the evaluation. The purpose might be to check the quality of the course to improve it before it is implemented, or as what we call formative evaluation, or to measure the effectiveness of training and learning immediately after the course has been implemented, or as what we call confirmative evaluation, or we want to evaluate an old course to see if it is still valid or needs to be modified, as what we call summative evaluation. Then, you will need to define if you want to evaluate learners' progress and or provide certification. And this will also influence the choice of the assessment tests that will be integrated into the course. In fact, you may want to assess learners' knowledge and skills before the course starts at a certain points in the course. So, that is middle evaluation, and or after the completion of the entire course. As it is important to ensure that the assessment tests are aligned with learning objectives. Take note of it. For this reason, it is advisable to start drafting the assessment tests from the first stages of the project, just after the definition of the learning objective for each learning unit. And of course, to summarize my discussion for this video presentation, number one, the instructional designer must propose the best mix of e-learning methods and formats to match specific learning needs. Special attention must be given to technological and resource constraints. Number two, learning objectives can be achieved through a wide range of learning methods such as self-paced interactive lesson, case-based or operational simulation, online discussions, collaborative activities, virtual classroom, assessment tests, and surveys. Number three, different media elements can be used to create e-learning content such as text, graphics, animations, audio, photographs, and video sequences. The choice of the right media mix depends on the instructional approach as well as on technological and resource constraint. Another is when deciding between using offline and online, synchronous or asynchronous approaches, it is important to consider learner-related factor. Again, their technical expertise and available time, and technical aspect, hardware and software requirements, and of course, the speed of their internet connection. And the last, the overall evaluation strategy and the methods for assessing learners' progress should also be defined as part of the design stages. So, thank you very much. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Hashtag DocMelo, the author. God bless everyone.